Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Ari Talks About Music. I'm Ari, and today I'll be reviewing the sort of self-titled album by Viagra Boys, Viagra Boys, I suppose, which is the fourth album from the Swedish dance punk band. And the expectations for this album were reasonably high, given that their previous album, Cave World, in 2022 was absolutely fantastic. Just being this amazing and very fun and at times witty and sarcastic concept album, all just about the regression of society with the rise of far-right conspiracy theories, particularly surrounding things like vaccines and how that has caused society to go backwards in evolution a bit, if you will. And while this new album doesn't have quite the same overarching concepts that are present on Cave World, and definitely doesn't quite have the same theatrics, there's still no denying that it's just an amazing, groovy dance punk album, if nothing else. With the opening track, Man Made of Me, just having this amazing and really fun energy, with this really amazing and just very dynamic guitar riff that just opens the track so well. The lyrics, of course, in typical Viagra Boys fashion are just really silly and sarcastic at times, with references to subscribing to your mum's OnlyFans, as well as the constant repetition of just being on the internet looking at feet. And I do just want to mention as well the absolutely thumping bass line for this whole track that just really goes hard for the whole thing. And after an amazing opening track, the bog body then comes in and just picks up the pace a little bit more, with this track just being slightly more consistent in its energy, I think. The amazing groovy bass line is definitely one of my favorite elements of this track, and then the amazing, almost psychedelic outro is also just fantastic. Lyrics again are really fun and really creative, and also genuinely come through with so much amazing social commentary, which is something I've always loved about Viagra Boys, is just their ability to say the weirdest, stupidest stuff, but it still is all genuinely important stuff that needs to be said, just presented in a really silly way. Bruno 2 is definitely a much simpler track, there's a lot less going on, but it still has a lot of really cool ideas floating around and some really good instruments in the mix as well, and still overall manages to be a really groovy and really fun song. I do absolutely love the very suspenseful and almost mysterious feel that this track has. It makes it feel very serious, but then you have obviously the massive contrast when you start looking at the lyrics and you realize just again how weird and silly it is in the most wonderful way possible. Pyramid of Health, I must say, must be one of my least favorite tracks on this album, just feeling like it's a bit too slow for its own good. I think the fact that it's so simple and stripped back generally just works against it, with it feeling like it's definitely laying the groundworks of a genuinely amazing song, but there's just not enough going on, and I really just think it lacks just how groovy all of the other tracks are, and it really just doesn't sound that good in comparison, coming off an amazing run of 3 tracks before it. Dirty Boys, this track really is just classic Viagra Boys. You have that very suspenseful intro that does a great job of building tension, and then just, of course, builds to an absolutely amazing chorus that is just so fun to listen to every time. The ending is also an amazing moment on this track, with the slight hints of electronic sounds that just blend in so well as just all of these other layers that just get slowly added one at a time and are added in such an amazing way. Medicine for Horses is a really nice, much slower track, with this absolutely amazing and very atmospheric guitar sound as well. I do love how you have these very soft and very heartfelt vocals paired with the, again, completely seemingly nonsensical lyrics, which I think is just a really fun combination that works surprisingly well, despite how contrasting they are. Waterboy has a very punk rock loser quality to it from Cave World, and I think that the instrumentation is slightly lacking during the verses, but it's more than made up for in the chorus, with this track during the chorus especially just feeling so dynamic and interesting with there being so much going on. And of course I do love the particularly sarcastic tone in the vocals on this track as well. Store Policy is off to a bit of a rough open, being just completely wild and chaotic, and not necessarily in a way that works all that well. You do still have this amazing chugging bass line that is consistent for the whole song pretty much, even during the intro, but the song really starts to pick up as a whole about halfway through, when it just really starts to kick in and get so groovy and so punchy and amazing, which then is only amplified even more for the outro, when everything just really comes together and feels even more chaotic than the intro, but this time in the best way possible. I do like that you have the slight hints of a saxophone coming in towards the end as well, giving it a slightly almost jazz rock influence, which I do love to hear. I just kind of wish that the saxophone did a bit more. It still feels very subtle, like it was trying to have more of a presence, but didn't really quite manage to achieve everything it wanted to. You Need Me is just a really groovy and fun track, with these really nice, unique sounding guitar tones, and of course I just love the constant dropping of random historical facts being a really fun and silly element of the song. Best in Show Part 4 just features frontman Sebastian Murphy rambling, seemingly about just whatever is coming to his head at any given moment, with the instruments in the background just seemingly coasting for a little bit, but still just getting a little bit weirder as the song progresses. And eventually, once you get to the outro, it really does just go wild and feels like everything is happening at the same time, and especially with there being, again, that slight jazz influence here, which does sound really good. And then the closing track, River King, is a huge and in a way almost startling turn tone shift, with this track actually being a much softer, much more heartfelt piano ballad. On its own, it is a really good song, and they do it surprisingly well for their first proper attempt at a track like this, with it starting so simple with just the piano and the vocals, and eventually you have other elements that come in as well that also sound really good all layered on top of each other. However, I do just think that considering the rest of the album is what it is, this track just tagged on the end just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense and feels very out of place, as good as it is on its own. And so while Viagra Boys don't do all that much on this album that they haven't really done before outside of the odd bit here and there, I think that they're one of those bands that even though they change their sound very infrequently and in very minor ways, they're so good at what they do that it's undeniable that it's still a fantastic album. And so while certain evolutions in their sound would still be a welcome change, I can't complain about the result of this album at all. And so I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please be sure to listen to this album yourself and tell me your thoughts below. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and please leave a dislike if you didn't like the video, and remember to stay hydrated.